the fancy, package. It's going to cost you more.
Right.
Fine, but it's certainly not the price that it's going to be if you have a, processor, a transporter, mandatory testing, and retail with no tax write-offs.
Right.
So I'm saying,
Right.
so what's going to keep them going to that store and not want the marijuana at the price that they got that was produced by the caregiver? Really, not directly through their hands, but buying it selected by the owner, and you know what I mean? So that, to me, is the battle.
Yeah,
right?
I think the only thing that's going to the only countermeasure to that is going to be legalization. It's going to open up a vast new market.
Why are they complaining about it, those police officers? You know what I mean? Like, it would make sense. I know, that's another story. We can come back to that, and I want to hit that.
You know who I think has something to say about this? Jamie Lowell. I think he probably has a little something to say.
It's up to Tim. So we can let have Jimmy Lowell time for Tim's segment.
Jamie, are you there?
Jamie's got something to say, I'm sure.
I'm here.
There he is.
Jamie Lowell.
Jamie may have taken on... Jamie, did you take on some law enforcement folks at some event today and debated the legalization issue?
Well, I attended the event, and I did offer up information on Prop 1 and some other things, but the officer did not show up because of the structure of the event put on by a candidate, and they have policy not to have city people show up at these events to give the appearance that they may be in support of the candidate. So the police officer did not show up.
Okay.
But it seemed to be pretty reasonable. I mean, kind of communicated some things through the organizers, and it seems like it would have been more of a reasonable conversation than having to argue the Rocky Mountain report or anything like that. So, but it was a pretty cool scenario. I mean, Roger Bullfart was there, so he made my job pretty easy. He was ready to go with all the facts and figures of every conceivable study. And
well, let's just so those who don't know, Jamie attended an event that addressed the legalization issue in Munson, like near Jackson, Michigan.
Leone Township.
Leone Township, okay. And Roger Mulford, one of the guys from Jackson, Compassion Club for a long time, and advocate and well-spoken, well-educated. You said he was there as well. And do you get a lot of positive feedback, or what do you think is going to happen in Jackson?
Yeah. There was no negativity. Jackson itself, the city has not opted in, although there is a lot of support there, and there were some residents from Jackson there tonight. They seem to feel as though it's a matter of time, that one way or another, they will get Jackson involved. But Leone itself, budding Jackson in the township, has opted in and has decided to allow for several licenses and several different kinds of activities. So the people there were used to the discussion. I mean, yes, it was an expansion into legalization, but there was no real opposition.
All right, so I was mistaken. It was more about whether they were going to opt in. All right. So, but let's talk about this, and Tim, please, this brings Tim back in, and of course we've got all of our treat marijuana, like alcohol. The opponent is now drawn blood, right? I mean, they're clearly out there. They've propaganda.
Can I just say something?
What?
Fuck them.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, I agree, and let's do it through.
They're making a full court press. I mean, they're starting, the action. They're starting to get active. Let's put it that way.
So let's see. So, what are some of the questions and answers we go through this? I think there's so much. What will this proposal? This proposal will not. This is some of the propaganda stuff that comes with. And I'm speaking about the decreed opponent. They've labeled themselves as such. Healthy and productive Michigan.
And let me tell you, Scott Greenlee looks like a pretty healthy and productive guy, doesn't he?
He's definitely
Is that the younger guy?
No,
healthy and productive.
Is he the younger guy?
He's the one without the facial hair.
Yeah.
The one that looks like Humpty Dumpty without the facial hair.
The belly.
He was the one to my left, and Nancy was to my right.
Oh yeah, right. Here you go. The and some of the what's his face? The guy from the former senator signed up as one of the lead consultants and.
Oh, yeah, Randy Richardville.
Randy Richardville, At least he's a pro.
Remember him, Tim?
God. All right, here you go. The ballot initiative does not address possible dangers, additives to marijuana cigarettes.
Additives like tar?
This ballot initiative does not prohibit marijuana and alcohol sales and consumption in the same place of business. Further raises concerns about car crashes and fatalities, given the potential for drugged and drunk driving. Let me just name a couple as you come back. Ballot initiative does not allow citizens to FOIA information to discover who owns, operates, and grow establishments, even if the business creates a public nuisance. I don't know if that's true.
That's not true.
Yeah,
the ballot initiative does not allow marijuana use addiction to be used as a factor in determining child custody. Who said it should? Its use.
It mirrors the language in the MMMA, which is you have to be able to clearly articulate a reason.
Right. It can't be just the use.
And it could be you're addicted to a substance. I don't know how they would argue the addiction to marijuana, but I would say
I heard that argument. It's called he's got a controlled substance problem. Why? Because he uses marijuana. What do you mean? He uses marijuana. What do you mean? What's a controlled substance? Have you ever seen him
clearly articulated
No.
reason.
Do you know what marijuana is? No. Why do you say he's got a controlled substance? Because he's a medical marijuana patient. What do you mean? I don't know. Like that's what it is.
That's not clearly articulated.
Anyways, listen. So none of this is a thing, right? So let's go to some of these other brilliant.
But it says here that there's 6 people in jail in the entire state.
The entire
6 whole
state
people.
of Michigan.
6 whole people.
Although we also saw that 9% of all arrests are marijuana arrests in the state, so there must only be several arrests.
Yeah, and you know what? When you get arrested for marijuana, you definitely don't get taken to jail.
Never.
I've never seen that happen.
Well,
ever.
I know at least 6 people in jail right now, so I don't understand this statistic at all.
What the heck? It's the propaganda machine. It's laughable, and I think you have to really take it for what it is and look at it in that light, because people aren't going to believe this shit.
No.
The normal person knows there's more than 6 people in jail right now.
But when the cop
marijuana.
is standing there saying that, but a lot of people are like, well, that's the credible police officer. It must be true.
Did they say that?
Some of them
say that.
Some of them do. I don't think.
Here's a good true or false. Cities have to opt out.
That's not true.
Of course not. This has never been an opt-out. It's not a statewide. In fact, the only reason why some of this stuff passed both for the legislature was the idea, Tim, right? It's a common legislative tool.
It was mirrored when they wrote it. That was the entire point. Right. Is people are comfortable with this model.
Yeah. Truth is irrelevant to these people.
Yes.
That's the fact. And it's scare stuff. And... yeah, gullible people. There's going to be some gullible people, that believe that. But if they're that gullible, I mean, they wouldn't vote for this thing anyway.
Right.
That's how I
agree. There's a certain group of people that we're never going to convince, and that's what they're singing to. So,
how will law enforcement make sure users follow the law? It'll be very challenging for law enforcement as there's not a reliable impairment test in the instance of impaired driving. Law enforcement will also have to have the obstacles of enforcing personal possession limits of marijuana and underage sales and distribution of marijuana, as well as marijuana in the school system.
You mean writing a ticket?
In other words, they don't have to do any of this, really.
That's what they do.
Let's
talk
about this. This is really there's not a reliable impairment test. True, but if for some reason they draw someone's blood and you have 1 nanogram of marijuana.
Well, there's not.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
It's still a crime. Get you for that did not change.
No, it didn't.
The law in Michigan
did not change.
Tim, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Current existing zero tolerance.
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of funny thing. I was. This is a few years back, and I was sitting on the porch with Rick Jones, and we were sipping some cocktails and talking, and spent a lot of time together. And he's been a cop for years. I said, "Well, Rick, I mean, come on, you talk about a lack of." A test for marijuana and this and that, but don't you remember when the blood alcohol level was 0.15? Yeah, that was the legal limit, and there were no breathalyzers around, so what did you guys do? I mean, if a guy was driving erratic and he was slurring his speech and, acting drunk, yeah, you'd have the right to arrest him, take him to the station, and you would do a blood test. And that was the standard at that point. And, I mean, would you say it wasn't that effective? I mean, couldn't yeah. And then he kind of agreed to that. And, but then again, he kind of went the thing that, technology, yeah, that's helpful. But the point is they never even had that for alcohol for years and years and years. So
the technology became better for, enforcing it, and
Well,
but I tried to ask him, what is the deal? I mean, can't you use? Okay, or let's concede. I'm going to concede to you that no, there is no so-called reliable test that is going to prove impairment on marijuana.
There isn't one for alcohol. I mean, really. I mean, you're an attorney, Michael. I've read a whole lot about the Data Master, and I'll tell you what, to take that same technology and, well, not the same technology, but the same philosophy and implement a per se limit is unfair. It's unfair. There are people that are medical patients that can operate in their daily lives just fine and can drive a vehicle on very high amounts of THC. And what should happen is the police should have to do exactly what you just said, Tim. They should say, I observed poor driving. It was consistent with someone that's under the influence of marijuana. And then they would have to get a blood draw, and then they would have to convince either a judge or a jury or however that case becomes resolved that they were not under the influence of marijuana and it didn't contribute to their bad driving.
All right. Let me address a couple things, because this is a hot topic. People don't know how to address this issue. I think getting blood only helps if it becomes meaningful, right? If there's a level that has no rational connection to
because
some kind of outcome.
Even a nanogram.
Well, that's different. But we're talking about the existing law. Is if they get 1 nanogram, whether you're driving like a prudent driver
Zero
or not.
tolerance.
Could have been floating in your system for 30
that's
days.
for a recreational user. If you're medical, they got to prove.
But I'm saying if they change the law tomorrow and it's recreational, that's the law in the books.
Yes.
Right.
So they have zero tolerance.
Right. That's
so any adult sees smoking in a bar or comes out buys some marijuana,
they could smoke it last
can pull
week
them over,
also.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're going to have some... Okay, so the inherent problems with the...
Well, the 2-week thing is a fallacy.
No, it's not, and I'll tell you why.
It's a fallacy.
Listen, let me just give you a couple points. First of all, the issues around marijuana and alcohol, you said the breathalyzer, I agree. There's all kinds of problems with the breathalyzer, but it has been vetted to the extent that its accuracy has been established, a error rate that is within the accepted, scientific community, where if they repeat it, someone take a test over and over and over again, have this machine, that machine, using this technology, they're going to get the result, whatever. Okay, now, whether those numbers reflect on someone else is another story, but the worst part of it is they've been effective in their ability to make it more than just folklore. You ever talk to someone, they say, would you blow in the breath, they say 0.27, and they say, shit, you were really fucking drunk. They have no idea what that means, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The number speaks to something. Now, it could be they had blood in their mouth, they got GERDs, which is a disease that causes like air to flow to your stomach. It's not the same measurement of the air that comes out of your lungs. All kinds of things. Fluid in the mouth. There's these procedures. The machine's got to be calibrated. Trust me. But when you go to trial and these jurors are told around the instructions that you must presume this to be accurate. Starts with the presumption is accurate, and you're fighting, the whole. So I've been. So it's effective in that the police telling their story and how they do their shit is number one. Number two is that the law as it's read is understood to mean something, even though people really have no idea what the underlying circumstance. Now, do we think that if someone gets pulled over, they blow it 2.7, and they're a good drunk, let's say. You know what I mean, like that, because I think it's true.
I think when you're at those higher levels, the ambiguity kind of removes itself. But at lower levels, and I think the same is true with marijuana to some extent. But if we flip the argument, if you're talking about a medical patient that consumes a gram of marijuana a day,
what I want to do is listen. What I'm saying is, I think there is data that the human body interacts with alcohol in a way that has been able to be measured to a certain degree with the way it absorbs into your system. There's a absorbs in. They can do an extrapolation how long it takes to get out.
Yep.
They can put none of this regarding marijuana. That's the difference I'm trying to make.
Right.
There is some, and it's not a Schedule 1. They can put people, get them drunk. They can inject them with alcohol. In fact, them drive. Oh, that's they've done all that. Now, returning to marijuana, they cannot even come close to it. There's no number. There's no per se number, and the most neutral of folks, AAA insurance,
they
exactly
said
that. You can't.
Yeah.
Now, Now here's the problem. What do we do? Because we don't want to give it's an area that is going to be fought over.
Yeah.
It's an area of free.